Greetings. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on BlazeTV radio and podcast alongside Aaron McIntyre and Todd Erzin. I think Aaron's just going to wear a Kansas City Chiefs shirt every day this week. Pretty much.
Every day last week, every day this week, and then again on Monday if they win.
I think that's exactly what I did leading into the Rose Bowl, so I'm not here to complain. It's not a judgment.
Did that last year, too.
Who was the gal who said she's not listening anymore because I'm bullying you about your clothes? If she's tuned in, that's not a judgment. It's just a mere observation. I am Steve Deace. Oh, there will be judgments. That's just not going to be one of them. There will be numerous judgments pronounced during the course of this 2-hour excursion into the black abyss known as the decline and fall of American civilization. I'm even dressed for the occasion here today. Coming up on today's show, at the bottom of the hour, this was breaking news yesterday while just as we were getting on the air, and I didn't have time to look into the ruling and study it or anything of that nature. I did spend some time doing this last night. This is the 57-page ruling that the D.C. Star Chamber that's trying to put Trump in the gulag there with several of his supporters that they put out last night, doing exactly what I warned all along they were going to do, which was to overrule his appeal. They went even a couple of steps further, though, that I did not anticipate. And, I'm only going to cover this at the bottom of the hour because last week you guys were sold a bill of goods by a lot of people with blue check marks that everything was free and clear on this and we're just moving on to the election. And that's just not true. That doesn't mean they're going to be able to put Trump on trial. But if you read this ruling, man, they're going to damn well try. I mean, they're going to do everything they can possibly do to do so. And somebody needs to tell you the truth of, what's actually being attempted rather than pumping the sunshine. And so I don't care about being hated. So I've nominated myself for that gig. And I'm going to walk you through some of the takeaways from this 57-page ruling yesterday. I'm just going to tell you, though, yesterday was not a good day on that front. It was not a good day. And I tried to, when I read through it again, I tried to read this. If I'm John Roberts, what am I thinking? So how do I put myself in John Roberts' shoes? I view myself as much more important than others and abandon all form of principle and literally just wonder what makes me look as if I am mature, refined, and the adult in the room protecting America's institutions from unnecessary disruption. I tried to read it like that. I wasn't very good at that, by the way, particularly the mature part. Okay. So I did my best, and I'm going to share some thoughts with you guys at the bottom of the hour. Towards the end of the show, we'll be rejoined by the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation. Of course, we will play everybody's favorite game, buy, sell, or hold. We'll get through as many of them as possible. And then the ones that we did not get to, we will do in the overtime today at blazetv.com/Deace. All right, so without further ado, let's get rolling with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away, brought to you by dysfunction. The House of Representatives failed 216 to 214 yesterday to impeach Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas after 4 Republicans joined Democrats to oppose the ouster of the disastrous Mayorkas. The Republicans who joined in against the impeachment are Tom McClintock, Ken Buck, Mike Gallagher, and Blake Moore. Republicans can't even accomplish symbolic measures. Of course, the impeachment would have failed in the Senate, but it's okay. Things suck in Washington, but at least at the grassroots level, things are going pretty well on the American right with things like that wildly successful boycott of Bud Light. Anyway, here's Donald Trump, who said on Truth Social last night that Bud Light ad was a mistake of epic proportions, and for that, a very big price was paid. But Anheuser-Busch is not a woke company. He goes on to say, they've raised over $30 million and given 44,000 scholarships. Anheuser-Busch is a great American brand that perhaps deserves a second chance. Donald Trump reportedly has a fundraiser today with a lobbyist for Anheuser-Busch. I was skeptical about that statement at first, but then our trans influencer chimed in, Bruce Jenner, and said he agrees, so I guess we're good here. Lest you think all the news is eye-roll-inducing, RNC chairwoman Rona Romney McDaniel is reportedly set to resign. The move comes after criticism she and the rest of the RNC failed to reach fundraising benchmarks, and the money they did raise was misused. Dark horse to replace her, former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. It's okay, though, because the congressman responsible for his ouster from the Speaker's chair, Matt Gaetz, says he fully supports McCarthy should he be named RNC chair. Okay, anyway, you remember that one time yesterday when Steve said this after that border compromise fell apart?
So here's what will happen now. Republicans will attempt to attack on this in the election. Democrats are going to say, well, we had a bill, a compromise worked out in the Senate. I mean, the Republican was James Langford from Oklahoma. We can't win a single county in Oklahoma. And he negotiated with us in good faith, and we negotiated with him in good faith. I mean, we weren't even negotiating an independent candidate, Kirsten Sinema. She's not even a Democrat. An independent candidate was negotiating with a senator from the reddest state in the country. And they came up with this compromise that even the Border Patrol Union, you see this yesterday? The Border Patrol Union endorsed it. They did. That happened yesterday. And these MAGA Republicans in the House, these disruptors that want to shut the government down all the time. Oh, that's going to be like a siren song for the normies in the suburbs. Todd, tell me I'm wrong. Todd.
Can't.
Yeah, here's Joe Biden less than 2 hours later speaking at the White House.
Every day between now and November, the American people are going to know that the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican friends.
By the way, that investigation into Joe Biden and his mishandling of classified documents, that's coming to an end, and nobody will be charged with anything. And finally, there was an international SWAT competition in the United Arab Emirates, like SWAT as in police SWAT. What happens when the country of Chile sends an all-female team to this international SWAT competition? This.
Vamos. Five ladies teams involved in the UAE SWAT Challenge this year. Belarus, Thailand, Chile. Two teams from the Emirates. The first one to get wet in the ice bath today. And, well, they are stuck in the middle of that zip line. Remember, if you fall in the ice bath, you have to go back to the beginning of the zip line and do it again. And currently, Chile have 3 team members stranded in the middle of that ice bath. Thankfully, the water will be a little bit warmer than it was earlier on this morning. Vamos, vamos! And it just goes to show you how important momentum is.
Learning Spanish today, today's phrase is, at least they're actual women.
Al menos son mujeres reales.
And that's what happened while we were away.
Essentially, if you're a criminal in Chile, just do whatever the hell you want.
That's true here in America, too, by the way.
That's why I paused.
What ifs?
That's why, because I was like, well, wait a minute.
I love, did you purposely
You just filled in my own thought bubble, because that's why I stopped myself. Well, wait. Doesn't that apply here too? For different reasons, of course, but doesn't it apply here too? Anyway, what were you saying?
Did you purposely stop there, Aaron, on that quote, what he said? That's what happens when you lose momentum. That was like a perfect metaphor for everything else that you did there in that montage, Aaron.
Arons Montage brought to you by our friends over at Miracle Maid. Absolutely love Miracle Maid's temperature regulating sheets. These are from a material inspired by NASA. Silver infused silver infused fabrics, easy for me to say. That was as tough as watching the Chile female SWAT team. Silver infused fabrics can help you with temperature. That's going to be our out the rest of this year.
We didn't even get to the part where, did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
Where they get further penalized because they're dropping their weapons into the water?
Yes.
That happened.
Back to Miracle Maid and their awesome sheets.
Sorry, Miracle Maid. Or you're welcome. I don't know.
Let's put it this way. Miracle Maid is a lot better at making bed sheets than the country of Chile is of selecting SWAT teams.
Expert broadcasting.
Yes, it is.
There,
you will not hear a better segue broadcast in America today. I promise you that. Yes. In all seriousness, these are fantastic sheets, man. They came on board last year. Every night I've been home ever since, I've slept on these. We're ecstatic. We bought more ourselves. They're comfortable. They're luxurious year round. They keep your body at the proper temperature. I mentioned during the summertime, this was the first year we've lived in the same home for 17 years. It's the first summer we've lived there that we did not have to use the ceiling fan at night to augment the AC. And we had one of the hottest summers in recent memory in Iowa this year. And we never turned on the ceiling fan at bedtime once. Same thing in the wintertime. It's done a great job here, too, when we had some record cold just about a month ago. So you can't beat it. All right. If you want to go and try Miracle Maid right now, go to trymiracle.com/Deace to try Miracle Maid sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40% off at trymiracle.com/Deace. And if you use the promo code Deace at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20% as well. You can't beat it, folks. I promise you will love these sheets. Trymiracle.com/Deace. Promo code Deace at trymiracle.com/Deace. Promo code Deace. All right, let's get to Arons Montage. And I'm not a seer. I'm just experienced. It didn't require anything other than above average intelligence to make the prediction I laid out for you on this show yesterday. Now, I didn't think it was going to come true in 2 hours, okay? But this has all happened before. In 1990, George H.W. Bush signed what was at the time the largest tax increase in American history. And this after winning the presidency in 1988 with, read my lips, no new taxes. Democrats told him, I can't remember what the exact ratio was. It was something like, $1.50 will be spent on deficit reduction for every dollar brought in. Did they do that, Todd? They did not. In case you're wondering, I'll spoil it for you. They didn't do that. And then they turned around and ran against George W. Bush for violating his no new tax pledge and creating a sluggish economy. And George H.W. Bush became the first president to lose after winning a war. Lest you think that is a one-off. 2 decades later, we watched Republicans win massive midterm elections against a personally popular president named Barack Obama, both in 2010, 2014. These were historic. 2014 saw one of the largest swings of U.S. Senate seats since Reconstruction when the two-party era began. It was a 9-seat swing in the U.S. Senate. 9. Went from a 4-seat Democrat majority to a 5-seat Republican majority. A 9-seat swing. What was the driving issue? Do you guys recall the driving issue of those 2 midterm elections in 2010 that brought Republicans to power in the House, and then in 2014 that had one of the largest single Senate swing elections of all time? Do you guys remember what it was? A certain piece of healthcare legislation. Can you guys recall what that was that everybody supposedly hated?
The if you like your doctor, you can keep it legislation?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about?
That one, yeah. That which was such a lie, even PolitiFact had to call it its lie of the year at the time, because even it couldn't cover for Democrats there. 2016, Republicans win. Do they repeal Obamacare?
No, they do not.
No, they do not. In 2018, Democrats win 40 House seats. Can you guys think of what the number one issue in exit polls was in 2018? Healthcare. You can't make this up. Republicans won both chambers. You can only laugh. You can only laugh at this. I mean, you can only, it's like watching the Washington Generals. You can only laugh. They're just there. It's controlled opposition. They're just there for cannon fodder. The game between the Harlem Globetrotters and the Washington Generals, they're really playing basketball, right? The game is real. The basketball is real. The outcome, though, is scripted, like pro wrestling. It's going to hurt you if a guy comes off a top rope at 300 pounds and puts his elbow in your rib cage, even if he kind of puts it, he plants it first on a cushioned mat called a rink, and then kind of, quickly plugs it in there. 300-pound guys to just nudge in the rib cage on a frequent basis, that probably doesn't tickle, does it?
No.
It hurts. Pro wrestling hurts. Guys get hurt all the time, right?
Yeah.
But the outcomes are scripted. You see where I'm going here?
Sure.
So Republicans win 2 massive midterms against a personally popular president in 2010 and 2014 on the evils of Obamacare, get power, vote over 50 times. Vote over 50 times during that era to repeal Obamacare, and making Obama either veto it, or when Democrats had the Senate, Harry Reid was running the Senate, have it get shot down. Over 50 times. They then get control of both houses of Congress after the 2016 election and the White House. They refuse to repeal Obamacare. Do you remember what they even tried to do instead? The master plan was to keep all of to keep the regulations in place in the individual mandate. And the master plan from the Trump White House and Paul Ryan was to who was Speaker at the time, was just to repeal the corporate mandate. That's very populist. So 23-year-olds that are healthy, that don't want to be told what health insurance they have to buy, if they have to buy any at all, you are screwed. But the corporations were going to get off. Do you guys remember all this?
Yes.
Yeah. That was their master plan. That would pretty much fulfill every commercial, other than when they're calling you racist, you've ever seen Democrats run against us in your lifetime, would be that. Keep everything that everybody hates, but let the corporations be exempt. Who writes this stuff? The Uniparty does. The fighting is real. The outcome is scripted. And so in 2018, by refusing to act, by betraying their base, Republicans end up owning the Democrats' issue. The issue that ended Democrat majorities in 2 houses of Congress, both of them. Republicans end up owning that issue. Healthcare costs skyrocket on their watch. Nothing is done. Number 1 issue in the 2018 midterms, healthcare. And Democrats took back the 40 House seats they just lost from Republicans on the exact same issue. On the same issue. You can't make this up. I'm not a prophet. I'm just experienced. This was always going to turn out this way. I just didn't think it would turn out that way in 2 hours. But that's all it took. And Republicans, outside of the audiences in places like this, you know the truth. You know what's been going on all this time. How many of your normie neighbors in the exurbs of Carlisle or the suburbs of West Des Moines know?
They know nothing and they love it.
That's exactly right. And all they're going to hear, because we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on legal defense, so all they're going to hear is hundreds of millions of dollars in ads all summer long, is how the MAGA Republicans stopped us from securing the border, which we opened. That's all they're going to hear. It was always going to turn out like this.
Especially after Iowa evangelicals voted 2-1 to do what they did, because had that not happened, we would have had a different messenger to run interference on this kind of stuff.
I'm getting a little tired of you picking on Iowa evangelicals. I mean, only 14% of Iowans voted. You're right. Keep picking on them. They deserve it. That's not much of a comeback. Couldn't even bother to be bothered.
It was cold.
Yeah, indeed it was. Yeah. Then you throw in the Mayorkas thing. Hell, if I was the Democrats, I'd just troll at this point. I'd be running pro Mayorkas ads. Republicans complain about the border. They won't even impeach the border czar. Literally like the worst, most unpopular cabinet secretary of all time. If my life, Mayorkas is the worst cabinet post official I've ever seen. Ever. ever seen.
They should just put his head right now on Colonel Jessup. You want me on that wall?
That's right.
You need me on that wall. Vote Mayorkas.
Bollard. It's not a wall. It's a bollard at the southern border. Sorry. Point of order.
Thank you. Guy just went to Congress for 2 years and just lied. Lied under oath. They won't even, this was going to go nowhere in the Senate. Aaron's right. This was just a symbolic vote. Can't even get the Republicans to do that now. And now the new master plan is Kevin McCarthy to replace Ronna McDaniel. Endorsed by the guy who said Kevin McCarthy. This is a clown show. An absolute circus clown show. And I haven't even gotten to throw out the global corporation's populist, fearless leader going full Tariqa Z's for Bud Light.
Dysfunction. Just everywhere. Everywhere.
But don't forget to worship the devil, Steve, so you can honor the baby Jesus at Christmas time.
I'm at the gym this morning. Kirsten Sinema's on Fox News. Fox is still trying to sell this to the people, to BoomerCon. It's hilarious. Like CNN and MSNBC are completely moved on and are back on message. Trump's Hitler. They're back on message. Fox is bringing on Kirsten Sinema, giving Kari Lake's opponent free airtime to sell this thing that Mitch McConnell has already pronounced dead. What is this? What is it?
It's going to be the least important election of our lifetime. That's what it is.
It's getting there.
I
I bristled when you started saying that. I did. I'm going to be just straight up honest. I bristled when you started saying it. But you know what? I want you guys to say what you really think. And I bristled when you said that. I'm 48 hours away from putting that on a damn t-shirt. Okay? We can't even ceremoniously dump a guy who has lied to Congress more than once and committed treason. We can't even do it ceremoniously.
And the guy who dumped the Speaker of the House is now celebrating the former Speaker of the House, who he dumped from the Speaker's chair to chair the RNC.
Well, Steve, Kevin McCarthy can raise money. You know how Kevin McCarthy can raise money? Because he's a technocratic tool of global corporatists like Nikki Haley. Same reason she can. That's why. K Street has its hand so far up Kevin McCarthy's rectum, he needs stool softeners to go to the bathroom. That's why. But who's out there promoting this? Matt Gaetz, who pimped a podcast and his brand doing the conservative media car wash when he toppled Kevin McCarthy last year for reasons. You know, I want you guys to think about some people for a minute. And I'm being dead serious. I mean it. I want you to think about those 11 people. It's 11 people, Aaron, that were charged, the pro-life. Was it 11 of them last year?
I believe 11, yeah.
Yeah. I want you to think about those 11 people who are probably going to go to prison if whoever is in control of Joe Biden wins this election in 270 some odd days. And what will their sin be? That they think people are fearfully and wonderfully made in the likeness and image of our Creator. I want you to think about people like our colleague, very brave man, Steve Baker. He was texting with me last night. He's coming out with more. DOJ's gone silent on his attorneys again. They don't know what's going on. Any day they could go in there, indict him, try to end his life, basically. Dude is just not, instead of cowering, Steve is just like, I guess this just means the meter's running. So let's put that boot to the throat a little tighter. Whoever's controlling Joe Biden is going to put Steve Baker in prison if we give them the power. Let's set aside the Bruce Jenner stuff and everything else, and let's look at this very practically. Mortgage payments, if you buy a house now, are twice what they were if you bought a house the last day Donald Trump was in office. Twice as high. Twice as high. Literally everything's more expensive. Literally everything is. We were energy independent. Now we have the most depleted strategic oil preserve we've had in any of our lifetimes. Iran was an isolated redheaded stepchild. Saudis and Israelis had normalized relations. Now Iran is resurgent, largely thanks to money that the Biden administration has given them to try and provoke us into a powder keg widespread war in the Middle East. Should I go on? Should I go on? These are some pretty serious things, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do we got? This is why I'm 10 minutes away from where, I mean it. I didn't say anything to you privately. I was bristling over here when you were saying that. But I'm about now to just make that the next Blaze shirt we sell. Because apparently all the things I just mentioned just don't matter. Apparently they don't matter. They don't matter. What matters is that Trump's got a meeting with a lobbyist in Anheuser-Busch and needs cash. Because apparently we can't sell like any golf courses or anything, because that would be a crappy headline. So you've got to drink a crappy beer that has shown no remorse at all for the crap they tried to shove down this culture's throat. A complete man whore for corporatists is now being recommended for RNC chair by the very same fool that took him out for speaker. Should I continue on?
You could if you wanted to, and on.
What the hell is this?
It's an endless road to nowhere.
Let me tell you what I'm not going to do. I did this in 2020. I'm not doing this. I am not spending the next 9 months on this show caring more about whether Donald Trump wins in November than he does. That I'm not doing.
Amen.
I promise you I'm not doing that.
Amen.
That I am not doing again. Went through that already once. I'm not doing that again. This is a freaking joke. Wait till you see what I'm about to show you in the next segment. They're trying to put this guy on trial for his life next week. Literally next week. And I'm going to show it to you with something you probably haven't been told by anybody else. Instead, while we talked about whether Taylor Swift was good or not, what is this?
It's sad.
It is sad. It's infuriating. Here's what we've done this week. It's Wednesday. We took the issue that should have been an absolute kill shot to the Democrats and at least helped them neutralize it. It's not completely off the table, but it's certainly not nearly as radioactive as it was 72 hours ago. Hell, Fox is still trying to sell BoomerCon on Kirsten Sinema's plan. We've given Bud Light absolution from Godfather with no remorse or repentance or acts of contrition, none. Because the tide plate was a little low and Papa's got to eat. And the master plan now is take down Rana in order to put Kevin McCarthy. And we can't even impeach a guy in a symbolic vote who has lied before Congress on multiple occasions and is probably guilty of treason. You know what? That video you watched at the end of Arons Montage, not the Chilean SWAT team. It's this election.
Yep.
And it's this frickin' party, and it's this frickin' movement, whatever the hell it is. Let's write more articles and give more exposure to some boomer on his third marriage yelling at women on Twitter. Let's do that. Why don't we do more of that? Do you think that ought to? I think that'll play. That's good. That's a great move.
We did it. So.
We did, yeah. So let's just do more. Let's give her more. Why don't we do that? Who's so courageous? His name is Cat Turd. What the hell are we doing? What is this? Somebody please. What is this? What is this? What is it? What is it? What is it? I think I'm coming to Todd's conclusion. Given the actions of the people who are supposed to be on the wall, Given their actions, maybe this is the least important election ever. I was wrong for the last year and a half. Our friends at Jace Medical, at least they're serious. In fact, they got really serious after they saw what happened during COVID when in-demand, venerable medications are suddenly deemed dangerous. You have pharmacists refusing to fulfill prescriptions from licensed medical doctors. Trust the experts. Pharmacists now know more than the doctors do, I guess. So the next time you need you think you have a sore throat, you've broken a bone, go see your pharmacist instead of your doctor, right? Is that how that's supposed to work?
That's exactly how the math did work.
Indeed. That is how it worked anyway during COVID,
yes.
For goodness sakes. And so out of that, we got to know our friends at Jace Medical. And they came up with this thing called the Jace case, just to make sure, in case there was another so-called emergency and some other venerable medications got taken off the market, that you would be prepared. Well, now it's even a broader problem. I mean, since December, we've been struggling with drug shortages. So you can now customize your Jace case into the medications that you need as part of their overall menu. Yes, ivermectin's on the menu as well. You can also order a Jace case if you've got a loved one, someone on a fixed income, assisted living, that you're helping right now, or you care about and you want to look after them. This is a great way to do that. Just go to jacemedical.com, Jase, jacemedical.com. Use the code DACE at checkout for a discount on your order. Get that peace of mind that you're in charge should this happen again. The stuff they keep telling us could never happen here, that keeps happening. jacemedical.com, Jase for jacemedical.com. Promo code DACE at jacemedical.com. All right, before I get into my review of the ruling yesterday from the D.C. Star Chamber that's trying to put the presumptive Republican GOP presidential nominee in a gulag as a form of election interference to rig the outcome in November. Before I get to that, I want to say as a disclaimer, what you are about to hear, I should not have to say this, except I know that I do. What you are about to hear is not my review, let alone affirmation of the arguments that the other side made. I think the entire thing is a politicized farce. And it's how we do Dealey Plaza today. We use lawfare to metaphorically assassinate people. They are attempting to assassinate, metaphorically, the presumptive Republican nominee for president as the figurehead of their opposition. I want to make it very clear that is what I absolutely believe is happening here. Have I made that clear enough?
Probably not, but
probably
you're trying.
Not. Yeah, probably not.
What you're saying, if I may, is that we agree it's wrong, but it is the realpolitik of the day.
Correct.
And until you defeat it, it will be increasingly so. So it must be defeated. And our track record at that right now, per the last segment
we just did, yes,
sucks.
Yeah. Because the same people that are telling us to put Kevin McCarthy as Ronna Romney's replacement also put Ronna Romney in there. Also, their leaders in Congress could not symbolically impeach Mayorkas. Should I go on?
Okay. Like I said, you could.
And so it's from that same political gene pool that the opposition to what I'm about to share with you is going to come.
Exactly.
All right?
That's bad.
Okay. That by the way, it's another ad for Jace Medical. We could do another live read for Jace Medical. When this is done, you're like, I'm not sure I need a case. You'll need a Jace case. Call them now.
That's
all right?
an ad for
Let's
heroin.
throw My Patriot Supply in there and all the other backup plans we have. You're going to need them.
That's an ad for heroin, quite frankly.
Okay. So I read through the 57-page. Next week I'm going to tell you why in Pop Culture Tuesday, because I went through and watched the cutscene movie for a new video game called Suicide Squad Murders the Justice League. Oh, I'm doing a whole segment on this next week. I mean, this is right out of a Nefarious plot, where Nefarious talks about taking even your secular myths and desecrating them. That's exactly what happens here. This thing is an absolute Everybody who made this video game should never, ever, ever be able to work in the industry or get a license to advocate for these characters ever again. Ever again.
You just spoke into existence the fact that they're going to be actually writing the scripts for the next movies. That
Probably.
It's happening.
Probably. And when I talk about this for Pop Culture Tuesday next week, that's probably already occurring. But after finishing this last night, I was in such a pit. I was at such a moment of complete and utter fear and loathing in West Des Moines, not Las Vegas.
I just figured that's where you were before you started reading it, because that's why you chose to read it.
I just figured, you know what? I'm actually now in a mood to read this. Okay. I'm now in a place. My night could not be any more ruined. My mood could not suck anymore. I'm in the perfect place to study this. So, I read through these 57 pages, and I have some takeaways. I want you to know before I share them with you that I went to somebody who knows a lot more about this than I do. Our good friend Josh Hammer, who is uniquely qualified here, not just on the basis of his own resume, his own academic resume, but his personal resume, because this was from a 3-judge panel on a circuit court of appeals, and Josh was once a clerk for Judge Ho, maybe the best judge we have in the federal circuit, on a circuit court of appeals. So this is right in his wheelhouse. Okay? I ran this through him last night before I sent it off to a bunch of other people, and I'm going to share it with you. And he didn't put up any veto on anything I said. In fact, I will tell you...
You're just like Gandalf falling into the hole deeper and deeper with the Balrog.
I know.
No, keep going, Steve. You're getting there.
Believe me, I don't want to be doing this right now. But after what I saw last week, that a bunch of people, frankly, just my idea misled you, that this thing was over with, I just feel obligated to just not let people live by lies when I can correct them. And it's not just any lie. Okay? This could very well be a process by which the next 4 years of this country's destiny and many of our own personal fortunes are determined. I mean, that's not an understatement at all, is it?
No.
All right, so let's get into this. Oh, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, I tried to, as I looked through it a second time, I tried to think, if I'm John Roberts, which was hard, but then again, I once did channel a High Lord of Hell for a year, so I thought maybe I can give this one a shot. If I was John Roberts, how would I receive this? So here I don't want to bury the lead. Here's the big takeaway. It is very clear that they are determined to put Donald Trump on trial this year. If you look at the way that this ruling was written, it's very clear. The court specifically calls Trump's actions criminal. Notes there is no double jeopardy here because, yes, he was impeached, but he was not convicted. Not to mention, impeachment is not considered a criminal form of law. It refers to Trump as a criminal several times throughout this, or engaged in criminal behavior, some form of derivative of that. It says it was, quote, in the vital public interest, end quote, to put him on trial even amid an election. It acknowledges that the election could make this, could change people's views, could make it more of a sensitive matter, but they make the case that what Trump is accused of, and they believe he did, an insurrection, is of the vital public interest. People have to know this. They have to know what literally Hitler has done. My point is, they're preemptively answering all of your objections. Everything that the Trump people are going to say to the Supreme Court soon, and when I say soon, I'm about to tell you how soon that's going to be, okay? Much sooner than we all thought. They're preemptively answering objections. This thing is written as a love letter to John Roberts, basically. It specifically goes after every argument that the Trump people make or will make and attempts to just ridicule and reduce them to ash. It even points out Trump claiming that it says Trump claims that this is unprecedented to do to a former president. It points out, no, it's not. Again, go back to my disclaimer at the start. Okay? I'm not agreeing with this. I'm just telling you what they're good at what they're saying. The panel specifically points out that Bill Clinton was forced to give up his law license and pay a fine after he left the White House because of the crime he committed while he was in the White House, which was lying under oath to a federal grand jury, the Starr Commission, the Starr grand jury, for which he was impeached but not convicted. So the panel draws a direct corollary here. It says Bill Clinton wasn't convicted either, and yet he suffered a perjurious penalty once he got into the general population. He had to pay a fine. He had to give up his license to practice law. So there's already a precedent and a very recent one, relatively speaking, of a president being held ex post facto accountable in a civil or criminal court for actions they committed while they were actually president.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So far, what I'm hearing is not so much, and I'm sure we're going to get there, it's not so much about the actual gravity of what he's guilty of.
Correct.
But about how bad his arguments have been.
Yes.
Which is why they can do this, apparently. So it doesn't have to be some kind of mastermind John Roberts judge, and they do that. We believe that.
You picked up on a very important nuance.
But it doesn't have to be
Todd.
because they are bad at this.
You picked up on a very important nuance. They're not attempting so much to already adjudicate Trump's guilt. Because if they did that, Trump's lawyers could come back and say, well, these people have already predetermined. They're prejudiced, okay? Right. Which is another reason why we should throw this trial out and it should never take place. The thing is rigged.
That's why I'm asking the question.
Instead, they keep pulling the pants down of Trump's legal arguments. They're making this just like they're going to do in their plan in the election is to not make it a referendum on a dementia-rattled president, but a referendum on Donald Trump. That's what this document is, a referendum on Trump's legal arguments, even more so than it is the efficacy of the charges against him. That's an excellent observation that you just made there, brother. They said Trump's interpretation to this end. You didn't even know this is where I was going to go next.
No.
The panel says Trump's interpretation of immunity, meaning that essentially a president has unlimited immunity for what they did while they were president. They can't be held criminally accountable for it after the fact. Would, quote, leave a president free to commit all manners of crimes provided he wasn't impeached and convicted. If he wasn't impeached and convicted, then a president could rape somebody. In other words, he could murder somebody. He could poison somebody. Actually, the current president did poison a bunch of people with a coercive vaccine mandate, but I digress. This again gets to they're attacking Trump's arguments more so than the merits of the actual case.
It's like Trump is the lead counsel against himself in all this. This is madness.
You're getting probably a reason why Trump's interviewing new law firms. They told Trump, if you're not irritated or aggravated by what I have shared with you so far, here is the piece de resistance. Here's the coup de grace. In this ruling, they tell Trump up front. Now remember, this is a 3-judge panel. Now Trump can do, I think it's called en banc, where you do then an appeal to the full circuit court
instead of just the 3-judge panel.
Instead of just the 3-judge panel. In this ruling, they tell Trump up front, you would be wasting your time to appeal to the full circuit. They just tell him up front. You got no shot. Tell him that up front. And to demonstrate this, Trump has been given a whopping 6 days. 6 days to appeal, not to the full circuit court, but the Supreme Court to avoid trial. 6 days, starting yesterday.
See, this is the part where I believe they would have done something like this, even if Trump had good arguments.
Of course.
Yes.
This thing has been fixed and rigged the entire time. But again, remember, the intended audience for this is John Roberts. This is all for an audience of one. And our fates now are in John Roberts' hands, it appears, much sooner than we had thought.
Just like the founders intended, of course.
Exactly. For one Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, yes. I asked Josh what his thoughts would be after he kind of, and when he say he gave me the all clear, meaning that I accurately portrayed what they said. Not like, great document. No, we're not endorsing this, okay? But I wanted to know, hey, this is not, in this line of work over the years, I've taken on more than my share of judges. I've read more than my share of court opinions and rulings and depositions. So I used to clerk at a law firm. I know enough to be dangerous, all right? But this is a matter of national security and importance. And I wanted to make sure, hey, am I pulling the right things out of this?
You're a meteorologist and
yes.
You see a class 5 hurricane coming down. You say, can I get a second
opinion? I show it to a guy
this?
who's a better meteorologist than me. Are you seeing the same thing on that satellite image that I'm seeing? And he's like, yeah. So I then asked him a follow-up question. How long, because this is a stall game from the Trump perspective. They want to run the Dean Smith four corners offense. Just run the clock out and just get elected this fall and pardon yourself and be done with all this. So, if we're gonna give him 6 days to appeal to the Supreme Court, how long does he think the Supreme Court will take to determine? They don't have to take. I don't know anybody who thinks the Supreme Court's going to take this. By the way,
one of the J6 attorneys I saw believes that the Supreme Court will take this case.
Okay, so there's one.
Two of the three on this 3-judge panel have been on the D.C. circuit for not very long, like maybe a year, and their egos will not allow them to let such junior justices or junior judges make such a wide range. I guess that's the argument.
Okay.
Something about ego.
That's the first person I have consulted who told me, because I'm only talking to people on our side, and no one I've talked to thinks the Supreme Court will even take it. But Josh said he thinks because then you're thinking, okay, the Supreme Court term doesn't end until June 30. Maybe they drag this thing out, and now we're well into the year, and maybe they can't put a trial and everything together in time. That's what you're thinking from the Trump side of things, or hoping for, right? Josh is like, oh, I think they will actually rule on this very quickly. Whether they're going to take it or not, or what their thoughts on it or not.
I mean, it was less than a week after Colorado tried to pull what they did that the Supreme Court said they were taking up that case.
So that's the update. Do with it what you will. I did my job. And now you do yours. It'll be buy, sell, or hold, and we'll respond to you next. All right, let's have some fun, shall we?
It's not up to us, is it? It's up to them.
Let's do buy, sell, or hold. That's coming up here in just a matter of moments as we are back here with Hour 2 live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here with Todd, Todd, Erzin, Aaron McIntyre, and all of you. And you can let us know what you think about what we think by emailing us, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on Twitter, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok. And, of course, if you're a podcast listener and you have not done this, please leave us a 5-star review, and we thank all of you who have. And if you are on iTunes, hit follow, or anywhere else, hit subscribe. And that way, every time we do a new episode, it will show up in your podcast feed every single time. This part of the show brought to you by ExpressVPN. When you go to the bathroom, you always close the door behind you, right? You don't want people randomly passing by and looking in on you. So why would you want that when you go online? Your online privacy is important. That's why you want to use ExpressVPN. Using the internet without a VPN is like going to the bathroom without closing the door. So let your internet service provider, that lets them know every single website you visit. And they can sell this information to ad companies and tech giants who then use your data to target you. ExpressVPN creates a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so that your online activity can't be seen by everyone. It works on phones, laptops, even routers. So everyone who shares your Wi-Fi is protected. And all you have to do, just fire up the ExpressVPN app and click one button. It's as easy as closing the bathroom door. Get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free when you go to expressvpn.com/Steve and sign up for a year. You get 3 months for free if you sign up for a year at expressvpn.com/Steve. That's expressvpn.com/Steve. All right, let's get to buy, sell, or hold. Aaron has submissions from you in the audience. We'll get through as many of these as we can over the next 28 minutes. The ones we could not get through, we will do so in the overtime today at blazetv.com/Deace. Todd, Aaron has selected these. You and I will select whether we buy or whether we sell. And if you use a hold at any point in time, you've got to drink a case of Bud Light. Or you've got to go back and listen to the first hour again. Your choice. Whichever one of those two painful procedures you are willing to embark upon if you use your hold.
Makes me pine for the Lindsey Graham days.
All right, let us go.
Yeah, we have 33 submissions today, so we can go as basically fast as we'd like to and still have plenty left over for overtime. We'll begin with Sean Griffiths, though, who has the top names for the Biden versus Trump debate. That'll never happen. The Battle of Verdun.
Nice World War I reference there. That's nice.
Seniles in denial.
You might have wanted to stop right there, but okay.
The Stupor Bowl.
Yes.
That's good, too.
The Battle of I Need a Napomatics.
Oh, my gosh.
The Cage Fight in the Octogenarian.
Oh, God.
The Battle of Armageddon.
Nice.
Battle of the Boomers 2, Geriatric Boogaloo.
Geriatric Boogaloo. Nice.
Perfect companion.
Those are all
to the
very
show
good. I
so
might have put
far.
them in a different order, so you reached a different crescendo, but those are all very good. Yes.
Next, we go to Lavis, who says RFK Jr. will be on the debate stage if a debate actually happens.
Bye. He is polling at a level that they would have to include him, which is another reason why the debates won't happen. So I will buy.
Adrian Slade.
That's fine. I'm just going to sell because Steve's, of course, right if logic and rules matter, but they don't, so they'll find a way not to have him on.
Next, Adrian Slade says Tucker Carlson is detained at the airport for interviewing Putin.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Apparently, the European Union is really upset with him.
Huh.
How much fentanyl would pour across the border while Tucker Carlson is being detained?
I keep resetting that. Listen, Tucker does phenomenal work overall. I just don't like being BS'd, okay?
I feel like that's happened a bunch over the last 3
months. And I think he's BS'd me a few times this year.
Yeah.
And that doesn't take away from, or last year I should say, doesn't take away from overall the great work that he does, which in my view, by and large, outweighs my own annoyances at these things.
I'll buy.
I could see this for sure. In fact, a couple years ago, you and I, Aaron, just were joking around, talking off the air one day. If you remember this, after Todd left, remember that propaganda film that the Russians came out with about flying to America because it's free?
Oh, yeah.
And the people are all on the plane talking about how woke the country and stuff is. And it's at the end, they decide they want to fly back to Russia where it's freer or something like that, right? And you and I were one day joking around off the air. This is back in, I think, in 2022, 2021. You and I were joking around one afternoon after Todd left here about, kind of like what you say, Todd, about I want to run for office just to know, okay? Let's maybe go do a show in Russia. What is it like there? Remember we looked at this and what flights and stuff would cost?
Yep.
Well, one of the things that came up when we looked at it was there was a State Department advisory. I mean, the high likelihood of you being detained for visiting Russia, basically, okay? Like, who does that unless you're, this is like the Cold War all over again. Who does that unless you're some kind of a spy, So, in light of that, I could buy this. Sure.
Yeah.
Next, we go to Stephen Robert, who has the top 11 original Star Trek episodes.
Oh, finally, some good news.
Begin at number 11, Spock's Brain.
That's just a great title for an episode, so I'll go with it. I don't remember what the episode's about, but it's a great title for an episode.
Number 10, A Piece of the Action.
Okay.
Number 9, Mirror, Mirror.
Yes, for sure.
Number 8, The Changeling.
I don't remember that one.
Number 7, Space Seed.
Well, that's got to be higher. That's arguably number 1.
Number 6, Arena.
Yes, with Gorn. Gorn was dope. Yes.
Number 5, the Doomsday Machine.
Yep.
Number 4, the Galileo 7.
I don't remember that one off the top of my head.
Number 3, the Menagerie 1 and 2.
Absolutely. In fact, when they first made laser discs, they made that into a laser disc package when we were kids, I remember. Yeah.
Number 2, City on the Edge of Tomorrow.
That's the one most people think should be number 1, although I would vote for Space Seed with Khan.
Number 1 is Balance of Terror.
Balance of Terror. Is that... I'm trying to think of which one that is. Is that... Yep, that's what I thought. Okay. This is where Romulans are introduced. And we see for the first time that the Romulan commander, who's played by the Mark Leonard, the same actor who played Sarek, Spock's father, that the Romulans have the same ears, right? So that's a great number 1. It's basically like a Wrath of Khan dogfight between the Enterprise and this Romulan ship for an hour. That's a great episode.
How many seasons of Star Trek are there? There's not as
many
as
original
you'd
episode.
Think, yeah.
The original episode, and this is again, if my wife was listening, she would say, if I had not had all 3 of your children, I'd swear you're a virgin. Okay. There were only 79 episodes of Star Trek ran on network TV before it was canceled.
Right.
And if my memory serves, Roddenberry let some form of his copyright lapse. And so this is how this show went nuclear, is because of that, it got into free use, where as we were now expanding TVs from VHF to UHF. Remember how when you and I were kids, you had to turn to UHF to get the channels, like the afternoon cartoons would be on, like G.I. Joe and Thundercats, right? Okay. And so these UHF channels that started hitting the airwaves in the 70s needed programming. And so with free use access to all these Star Trek episodes, they just picked up Star Trek and just ran it on every UHF station literally in America. So before there were after school cartoons, in the 80s when you came home and watched G.I. Joe, Thundercats, Voltron, in the 70s you came home and what was on the UHF channel was Star Trek every day when you came home from school. And this absolutely took on a much more critical mass than it ever had when it was actually on TV. And then out of this, conventions started happening and everything else. And there was so much popularity around it that by the time we got to the late 70s, they decided to turn it into a movie franchise.
There's a Weird Al Yankovic movie named UHF, and it is weird.
If it's Weird Al, I'm guessing it's weird. Yeah.
Next up, we go to Jordan Judge. Most of the people in the older generations think that the economy is fine, while young people and young families are the ones feeling financial difficulties.
Correct. I mean, they're on Medicare, Social Security, they're on fixed incomes, or they've already got their retirements. Correct.
I'm going to sell only because I that's all true, but I think there's a lot of people who understand that things are broken. It's a different thing to think it doesn't quite affect me, but they know this thing isn't humming along. They just don't care. We're
talking about people who by and large spend most of if you want to know who the bulk of people that vote in GOP primaries are, go to your local casino and watch who puts the money in the slots, and then understand that the average age of a Fox News viewer is 70. It's those people. Those people dominate Republican primary elections everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And if you've got the time to go to do nickel slots all day long and get downloads from Fox News, that's probably what you think. Yeah.
Next up, we go to Esther Wolber, who is tackling the tough issues. So she's not an ex-user, so keeping this post brief. 5 terms to consider no longer using. Number 1. Red light for traffic light.
Why?
What are we doing here?
I don't
Number
understand.
2, tuna fish. Don't say tuna fish, just say tuna, she says.
Okay.
Number 3, hot water heater. Don't call it hot water heater. Just call it a water heater.
I gotcha. Okay, I get that one.
Number 4, tin foil. Was it ever made of tin?
All right, I like that one too. Okay.
And number 5, would instead of would've.
Okay, I like 4 and 5. I don't understand 1 and 2, and number 5 just is a grammar and syntax issue. Correct?
Yeah.
But the fact that she's not an ex-user, but got on
get
X,
this off her chest.
I got to buy this. That's an impressive level of pettiness, and I love it.
Sell.
Oh no, I'm the opposite. I'm an admirer, actually. Seriously, that level of this needs to be deposited somewhere, and the fact that you chose us as the vehicle.
I was just gonna say.
Yes,
and this is the home for it.
Someone said to me the other day on Twitter, "My goodness, Steve, you've become childish and petty," and I said, "You're dead wrong. I've been this childish and petty the entire time." Okay?
Facts.
Yes.
Jeff Baer has the most popular songs of the 80s that didn't hit the Billboard Top 40. Sharp-Dressed Man, ZZ Top.
Now, I don't know. No. I'm going to take your word for it that these songs did not make the top 40.
How is that not top 40?
But that blows my mind that did not hit the top 40. That blows my mind.
I Melt With You by Modern English.
There's no way that can be true.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a massive...
Do we need to live fact check this?
We might have to. That blows my mind. That's like one of the first soundtrack hits of the decade. Of a decade of soundtrack hits.
Slow dance. Yep. Come on.
That's from Valley Girl. That was kind of the first 80s teen movie of that era. Nicolas Cage got his debut in that film, by the way.
That's impossible.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Wow.
Sharp-Dressed Man peaked at 56.
Wow. Because I will tell you this, it peaked a lot higher on the MTV Video Countdown because it was on constantly. All right.
Let me check I Melt With You real quick, okay?
Okay.
Jeff says it peaked at
78, so it barely even made it into the top 100.
Yep, that's correct.
That blows my mind.
So we're just going to assume that the rest of these are correct now.
Okay, good enough. All right.
Hot for Teacher by Van Halen.
I don't understand this list. I in no way understand this.
Center Field.
I don't.
That didn't even make it. Casey Kasem never played Center Field from John Fogerty one time on the American Top 40?
I hear that all the time now.
No doubt.
Serious. I Want to Rock by Twisted Sister.
Wow. This blows my mind.
And What I Like About You by Romantics.
I don't.
Wow. That's a great list, man.
Oh, I know. That's might be the best list we've ever had.
You know, that might be the best bar bet list of all time. Everybody knows the words to those songs. Or can at least hum the melodies or the tunes. Do you know how much money you'd win in bar bets with that? And no one would believe you. Just jump online and prove your point. That's a lot of bar bets with that list. That might be the greatest bar bet list I've ever seen on this show. That's incredible. Great job. Bye.
Next up, we go to Go Bucks and Cancer Sucks, who says the over-under on number of Pfizer ads during the Super Bowl should be 4.
It's way over because Travis Kelce's a Pfizer ad. And he's going to play about 75 snaps in this game. Okay, so it's way over that.
It's one is too many, so it's just going to be under.
Not Putting My Faith in Princess 2024 says actors that play the same role almost every movie that they're in. Top 5. Nicolas Cage, Samuel L. Jackson, Harrison Ford, Tom Cruise, and Adam Sandler.
I don't get that at all. I don't think Nicolas Cage plays the same role at all, actually. I think he's a friggin' changeling. I think that's one of the interesting things about him. I guess Samuel L. Jackson, are we saying he just plays the black guy with swagger in every film? Is that kind of what we're saying?
I think so.
I mean, I think that's a little reductionist. He's played that most of the time, but he's played other roles too. But okay, I'll grant you that one. Harrison Ford, no.
Kind of, just the renegade.
I mean, I think if you're only looking at Indiana Jones and Han Solo, but you're talking about one of the great dramatic actors of the 80s and the 90s. So I wouldn't agree with that. What was the rest of the list?
Tom Cruise and Adam Sandler.
Tom Cruise has a brand. I'll buy that. I'll buy you that one. But remember, this guy also played, was nominated for an Oscar for Born on the 4th of July, meaning that Cruise could play more. He just knows what his brand is and knows how to make hit films and has chosen not to. Sandler is largely accurate. That one I'll buy for sure. But Samuel L. Jackson, I'll give you that one. But I kind of would say the same thing about Samuel L. Jackson I would say about Tom Cruise. I think he can do more. That he just knows what his brand is, and that's the black man with swagger. Yeah,
the big checks are clearing.
Yeah, he knows that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe we shouldn't penalize people who are self-aware, and kind of know what their brand is. But I'll grant you Adam Sandler for sure. Yeah.
Next up, we go to Jim Stocker, who says we should scrap the entire process of voting for representatives and senators and replace it with a Hunger Games-type lottery system whereby random folks from each state and district are randomly chosen to serve in government for the prescribed term.
I love that idea.
That's
absolutely
a fantastic idea.
It is a fantastic idea.
William F. Buckley would approve.
I nominate myself as tribute. Yes. I think that's a great idea, brother. Love it. Bye.
Todd, you ready for the next 4 tweets?
Oh, that's
Submissions?
okay. Let's do this. I don't know the specifics. I just knew something was coming.
Matt's collection has this photo of the back wall in his home office, and he says Todd is not a fan.
Oh, because he's got the light. I didn't even see the lightsabers. It's the posters
of every single Star Wars movie separated by basically
lightsabers.
every variety of lightsaber.
Yeah, that's a dude code violation right there.
No.
I totally disagree. I think that's dope as hell. I think that's dope. It's just decorations in an office, man. Now, I think if you're going on in your home office on coffee breaks and fighting lightsabers out on the back lawn, we need to talk. But I think that's pretty dope. I mean, I have that in my man cave, except for the lightsabers as separators. I've got original copies of every Star Wars poster. Many of them, the ones you have up on your wall, are in the man cave at my house.
Yeah, it looks sweet.
There's a line, and that crossed it.
Levi Vandermolen says Todd should have to put $20 in the pull jar every time he uses the phrase "soap operas for men." Point taken. We got it.
No, you don't. You clearly don't, because you're sitting here whining and complaining about it. So there's more coming.
Yeah, if there's a way to get Todd to bring this up more, it's this.
Yes.
Next.
Instead, Todd says, you're going to put $20 in the jar. You're going to do it for me.
I know it's true because of that tweet. So do you.
Pumpkin Cat 1031 says Todd needs to sit at the table outside of the Super Bowl with a bottle of vinegar and a sign that reads, "This event is just a soap opera for men. Change my mind."
I will sell because I don't believe the event. Are you paying attention? I don't believe the event or sports in general. Steve's actually made this argument on my behalf because he pays attention. I'm trying to save sports from fools like you. You're ruining it. I'm trying to save it because I do love it and it is important and it can be good, true, and beautiful. If it becomes an idol, and it has for a lot of you, and you stop caring about the things that make a civilization great enough to sustain that, then I have to do what I'm doing, and I will continue to do it. The Super Bowl in and of itself is a pretty cool thing.
Todd was speaking, of course, of the nebulous you.
Not Pumpkin Cat 1031.
Not Pumpkin Cat 1031. Yes. Just the nebulous you out there. Yes.
Iowa Dad has this. This is going to be Todd in 25 years. It's the Grandpa Simpson gif. A meme. Old man yells at, instead of cloud, it says comfort.
How long? 25
years? How about 5 years?
Like 25 minutes from now. Okay.
But it's not. This is when we did this last week, and the joke of share a Twitter feed that nobody knows and the chivalry guild. But like this is a classic.
I forgot you did share.
It's a classic virtue. I'm not making this. This is not unique to me. I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. You in this moment.
The nebulous you.
Yes.
Not anybody specific in this audience. The nebulous you. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yes.
No, that's it. It's not. Okay. I have all of human history at. The wind is at my back, folks. If you want to spit in the face of that, it's at your own peril.
That might be the most fantastically sanctimonious statement that's ever been made in the history of the show. And given the fact I host it for 2 hours a day, that is saying something.
Wow. Cool. I'd like to thank all the people, my wife, Jill, love you.
At
my
this point, Todd wants to thank his wife for giving him the big one all these years. I mean, that was incredibly sanctimonious. Even I was like, my heart skipped a beat. I stopped breathing for a moment. I was like, wow, that happened.
Todd.
Well done.
Todd Atlas Erzin. You better hope he doesn't shrug, America.
Thank
you. Was that up to your expectations, Todd?
It was good. Okay. It was good.
Okay. Corey Sinich says the Chiefs dynasty comes to an end after this season.
No. How old's Mahomes? 27, 28?
They've got one of the youngest rosters.
Yeah, they've actually just done a roster turnover in real time. You can't tell because they have a great quarterback. That's what the Patriots did every few years with Tom Brady too. You know, I mean, they reinvented themselves. How many different iterations of we had the Randy Moss Patriots. You had the offense doesn't lose the game, and the great Willie McGinnis defense, Teddy Bruschi defense Patriots. You had the two tight ends before one of them became a murderer, Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski, Patriots. I mean, they just reinvented themselves every few years under the salary cap. But the one constant was they had a generational great quarterback, and that's what the Chiefs are doing right now. I agree. I mean, this is top 5 defense in the league, and it's one of the youngest defenses in the league. No, this is not going anywhere.
Correct.
Next, we go to Jeremy Ward. If pastors taught more James 4 from the pulpit, we'd have less Romans 1 in the real world.
Yes, I'll buy, but we could do this with numerous scriptures. We could. Numerous. I mean, if pastors taught more Nehemiah 14, we'd have less Romans 1. I mean, I don't even know how your average sweater-vested, khaki-panted pastor just preaches out of Nehemiah at all, let alone Nehemiah 14.
You know how many
times my pastor is right now.
Well, that's why he's your pastor. Yeah. Okay. But the average sweater-vested, khaki-panted American pastor isn't going to go anywhere near that, man. It begs a lot of difficult. Wait a minute. He's beating these people. He's pulling their hair out. He's throwing people out on a street. He's making people who married folks from foreign countries divorce and leave the wives behind. I mean, what is this?
Since a month ago or so when we brought up Nehemiah, I multiple times since then I have thought about I because if you're Catholic, you think about if you're a Catholic guy, if you became Pope, I would be Pope Nehemiah. I was just everybody sitting there going to okay, oh my God,
what have we done? What have we done? What did you do, Magisterium? What did you do? Yes.
Dominic Wet Bandit says COVID could not have materialized the way it did without social media platforms.
No doubt.
Yep.
The fear porn, the fear spread, the mind virus, the hive mind, the psyop. There's no way that's not true. And that's why coming out of that, one of the big takeaways I had was if this is your eschatological bent, it's never been more possible than it is right now to have a being emerge who essentially is able to get the world to buy in to a singular process without shots being fired. I mean, countries, it didn't matter if it was communist oligarchs in Beijing. It didn't matter if it was the Trump administration. It didn't matter if it was Boris Johnson. Merkel. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was Madagascar. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Form of government, ideology of government, with only a handful of exceptions, the most notable being Sweden because it was the one Western country holdout, but there were a few others. With notable exceptions, everybody just essentially imposed the exact same policies on their people without a treaty signed or a shot fired. That was not possible in human history before this moment, and social media is the reason why.
It's the Antichrist's Roman Empire. You've taught on the show multiple times before the timing of the gospel in the time of Christ in history.
Right.
Empire of Rome, roads, infrastructure that it could go forth. Matthew 28. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the dark, bizarro world version of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Next, we go back to Go Bucks and Cancer Sucks, who has the top 5 songs turning 40 this year. Number 5, Like a Virgin by Madonna.
So we're talking songs from 1984?
Yep.
It's a really overrated song, actually. And
most of Madonna's stuff.
Because there's other stuff from 1984. Guys, if you go back and watch the making of We Are the World, which was, you get a true sense of what a great year of music 1984 happened to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have any Huey Lewis and the News songs on there, for example. They absolutely deserve some representation on there.
Is Lionel Richie
Lionel
on there?
Richie's
because
not
what
even
you learned is he's swept those awards.
Yes. Yep.
Number 4, Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr. 3, Footloose by Kenny Loggins. 2, Jump by Van Halen. And number 1, When Doves Cry by Prince.
I think the rest of that list is pretty good. I'm okay with the rest of that list, meaning that even if those weren't, no one would object to those being on your top 5. And few would probably object to Like a Virgin being there too. I just think the song is really overrated, and I would have picked some others from that year. But that was an incredible year in music. I mean, you don't have anything from Born in the USA from Bruce Springsteen, so no Dancing in the Dark, no Glory Days, which I think is sneakily one of Bruce Springsteen's greatest songs. So it's a tough year to cull 5 from. And so since I loved 4 of your 5 for sure, I'll give you a bye. It's a good list.
Well, I'll have to sell on the list based on your testimony there. It's obvious that you could put together a better 5.
Next up, Daniel Garrett. This is interesting. Voting against impeaching Mayorkas yesterday so they can consider impeaching Mayorkas next week is peak House GOP. Now, to explain, I believe the Utah congressman, he had voted for impeachment and then at the very end switched his vote to a no vote. There's some sort of procedural mechanism that with him doing that meant that they could consider removing him or impeaching him again at a later date. That's what he's referring to.
Yeah. I think that's true because they've also tried doing it before too and couldn't do it. So, yeah, I will buy. You bet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hee-haw, the Viking has the top 5 celebrities that might actually be cool to hang out with. Roseanne Barr.
So
no way. So
Shaquille O'Neal.
That I could buy.
Yeah.
when he goes on his sprees going around and just giving people money that he finds cool,
And I also think dude just does not care.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the stories and stuff he would tell with no concern at all for collateral damage or what would get around. I mean, who's going to step even as he approaches 50? Who the hell is stepping to Shaquille O'Neal? You know what I'm saying? I think that'd be a ton of fun.
Keanu Reeves.
yes, like
I could buy that too.
Dude.
Yep.
Gina Carano.
Yes.
Kind of odd random placement, but I just think she's a cool chick, so I'll buy.
And Adam Sandler. Second Adam Sandler reference on Buy, Sell, or Hold today.
I'll buy Adam Sandler
Yes.
too. So I think he would be similar to Shaquille for different reasons. I just don't think he would care either. And I think the stories and stuff that you would hear would be something else now. So, yeah, I think that's not a bad list. I'll buy it overall. Yeah.
All right, so we don't have enough time for the next one. I will preview it, though. We have a submission from a listener. The top 10 provisions in that border compromise that would have actually deterred illegal immigration. We will start that off in overtime with that top 10 list. And I think these proposals are fairly serious, and I think we should take them very seriously.
That means they're not very serious, probably.
Why'd you have to blow that up?
All right, so we're going to do that in overtime today for Blaze TV subscribers at blazetv.com/Deace. That's where you can go to become a Blaze TV subscriber at a discount, blazetv.com/Deace. And if you're already a Blaze TV subscriber, guess what? blazetv.com/Deace is where you can go to watch this later today. We'll record it right after the show. Literally after we sign off with Daniel at the top of the hour, we'll do the closing credits and we'll hang out and go right into recording the overtime. And then we'll be at the mercy of Al Gore's invention to see how long it gets uploaded. It takes to get uploaded, so you can watch it later today at blazetv.com/Deace. But that also means we will be joined here in a matter of moments by the prophet of woe and lamentation. Now, I asked him to do something for me as a friend he did not want to do. And that is to examine the D.C. Circuit Court ruling just to check my work and give the audience a second opinion. He fought me quite a bit about this. Like, he doesn't want any part of it. So we'll see if I begged him sufficiently to do it or not when we come back. All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show. You won't believe this. Gen Z is probably more prepared than many of us are. Maybe even millennials, too. Recent research reveals a whopping 40% of Gen Z is preparing for the worst. That's twice what Gen X is doing. Shocked? Well, Gen Z apparently knows something big could be coming. they weren't born, and millennials weren't born into an era where there was still some residual trust of our institutions. So it's time maybe for the rest of us to give up that idol now. Start by going to preparewithdace.com. There you're going to find a rare special offer on a 1-year emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Yes, a food kit large enough to get you through an entire year. My Patriot Supply has helped millions of Americans prepare for emergencies. They're ready to help you too, sealed inside rugged 4-layer packaging. Their delicious meals last up to 25 years in storage and provide over 2,000 calories per day. That's over 2,000 calories per day for a year at a special price of under $2,000. This rare emergency food kit deal ends this week, though. You won't see it again soon, so go to preparewithdace.com to take advantage of it. Free shipping is included. Preparewithdace.com, free shipping included at preparewithdace.com. Let's welcome in the weekly prophet of woe and lamentation, the one and only Daniel Horowitz. Good to see you again, my friend. I made a very difficult ask of you last night, and you fought me every step of the way. We'll see if you decided to go ahead and go into the intellectual slums that I delved into yesterday by reading over a couple of times the 57-page ruling, the D.C. Circuit Court that is attempting, the Star Chamber there, attempting to put Trump in the gulag, put forth in rejecting categorically every single one of his claims of his argument, and then telling the former president he only had 6 days to appeal to the Supreme Court, warning him that appealing to the full court won't help you. We're going to rule against you. You're not going to win here. You might as well just go right to the Supreme Court, and you've only got 6 days to do that. I walked the audience through some of the stuff that I sent over to you last night after I talked to our mutual friend, Josh Hammer. And I just wanted to get someone else I know is really smart and a second opinion, because this to me looks like it was written specifically as a love letter to John Roberts. All of the is an opportunity for you to do what you really want to do, defend our venerable institutions against the insurrectionist disruptors of MAGA. And they essentially just attempted to use institutional arguments against every one of the Trump team's arguments in persuasion of John Roberts, I think. I think that was written for an audience of one. What's your analysis?
You know, Steve, one of the judges there was the George W. Bush appointee who actually is very similar to John Roberts. So it was written exactly for that. You know, in my book, Stolen Sovereignty, one of the many reasons I give why the judiciary is irremediably broken and we need to fight judicial supremacism rather than play this false casino game of, we'll appoint better judges, is because I was coming after the Obama presidency, and he really did a number on the second most important court, which often is the most important court because, as you rightfully note, in this case, for example, Supreme Court often doesn't grant the appeal. So it ends there. All the critical political cases end in the D.C. Circuit. Obama really did a number on that court. He just got lucky with the timing of GOP retirements or deaths. Kind of like, you know, Trump did very well on the 5th and 8th circuits, but the D.C. circuit's much more important. So you have basically an 8-3 majority against him. And, you know, they made it clear they're not going to hear the appeal en banc. But actually, even if they did, he would lose at least 8-3. Mm-hmm. I can say that for sure. Mm-hmm. And maybe even 9-2. Remember, this is the January 6th court. You have to understand, this is the court that has been meting out sentencing or ruling on motions of pretrial holding or just all sorts of motions because the defendants would have an F Biden sign or they would support Trump. So that is a crime in that circuit. So now they got the granddaddy himself. They're not letting go of it. And I agree 100% with your analysis that this was designed to truncate the period of time that it would take for, let's say, a Thomas or an Alito to convince the other three, because Roberts is gone, but the 3 Trump appointees to come on board by having that quick timeline, demonstrating it won't go en banc. They are making sure, and they know that the Supreme Court is reluctant to weigh in. Now, they don't want to rule the other way. So this is the perfect example, just like they're doing on a bunch of tranny cases and chemical abortion cases, just to allow the lower courts to rule the day indefinitely. That's what it was designed to do. To me, the news wasn't the fact that they mocked the Trump arguments on presidential immunity. Honestly, I think even the Supreme Court, you'd probably get 9-0 ruling on that. If they would ever rule on that. No one's going to want to go out on a limb that far. Obviously, they should make the stronger argument, which is that they are criminalizing political speech. It's not so much that you can do whatever you want. It's just that this is not a crime, and it's very dangerous if it becomes a crime, what they allege Trump stood for and called for. But I mean, because Biden's supporting Hamas. I mean, there's a lot of anti-terrorism statutes that violates as well. So they're criminalizing politics. But we already knew that they weren't going to take that argument. The key here is to ensure that the proceedings of the district judge could continue expeditiously.
Yep.
And the hope, if you're Trump, the hope was the Supreme Court's never going to rule with you on the merits, but that they would allow the stay of the district court's proceedings to go on at least what it would be through July or so. That does not look like it's going to happen. And one more thing, Steve, I would add, again, because there was a bunch of gratuitous language in there that was beyond just deconstructing the presidential immunity arguments. You see they have a real alacrity to bring him to justice in their mind. They've been doing this for 3 years with January 6th. And one thing I would say is I do believe in general the left is strategic in their timing. So, I've always joked around. I said, I can never find Klaus Schwab or Bill Gates saying a bad word about Trump. And they don't. And there's a reason for it. But then you have these legal people, and I'm going to tell you, these run-of-the-mill Democrat judges. I honestly don't think there's this memo being written by the DNC that they're all reading. They're just wild-eyed leftists who can't help themselves.
You see that in Colorado. I mean, clearly Jack Smith was putting pieces in place, the frog in the boiling water, getting the American people used to the idea, piecemeal by piecemeal of putting a sitting president that you're running against in an election on trial. And then the Colorado Supreme Court and their leftist zealotry couldn't wait for the proceeding to be officially concluded and jump to the final step, right before Christmas. And I think that's why the Supreme Court will slap them down, because they jumped ahead of the process. In this case, I don't think the Supreme Court's going to give a favorable ruling here. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't. I'm not even sure they'll take the case, actually.
No, I think they won't take the case because often they have a clear rule. They won't take a case unless they think they're going to win it. And that's why you find a lot of these cases where you'll have these egregious things I've talked about recently with the tranny cases where they deny an appeal from a bad lower court ruling that says you have a right to, expose minors to a drag show or something, nudity. And you won't have a noted recorded dissent, but there definitely is, because we know from other cases, Thomas and Alito at a minimum are not going to go for that. But sometimes they actually also kind of don't want to take up the case at that moment because they feel they'll lose it. They might be able to get 4 to take it up, but they can't get 5 to win it. And I think that's what you're going to find, that they're going to want to make sure they don't have their hands cleanly on this case. I do think there might be some other opportunities for them to take up appeals on other motions within the case that they might rule favorably to Trump, but fundamentally they are not going to be more than a speed bump. And I think what the important outcome from what you saw in terms of the timing, until now I kind of thought they were being strategic, that they wouldn't dive right into it. They would allow Trump to bleed enough that his numbers go down, but he's not taken out of contention too early. Now I do wonder if there's a chance they pile right into this and convict him early enough that theoretically he could be swapped out at a convention. I'm not saying he would be, but theoretically there would be time.
Looking at your analysis of this, what do you think the odds are that Trump will be able to successfully avoid going on trial for January 6th in front of the D.C. court before the election?
Almost zero.
Almost
zero.
See, I have the same analysis too.
Yeah, I think, like I said, there might be other emotions.
I didn't before reading this. I would have said maybe 30-40%. Okay, but after reading this last night, particularly the last part, you don't even try appealing to us. You're going to lose, and you've only got 6 days to go to the Supreme Court. It's very clear, man. They are ready to put that thing back on the docket in 10 minutes if they get the all clear. They're ready to go.
And they have all the evidence against Trump they need. Remember, evidence. You might think evidence of what? It's the same evidence they've been using for 3 years against his supporters who've been locked up for years, right? So I mean,
is this why is this pardon me, because the immunity thing, I understand why Trump's people are using it. I get it. And they're in a terrible situation legally. But just take this issue aside, and I'm not as concerned about it because I don't think we have another 100 years left as a country. But in the long run, if I did think that way, I'd be very concerned about setting the precedent that anything a president does while president is he's not legally liable for after he leaves office. I would just be really I'm not even sure Clarence Thomas, if outside of the specifics of who they're trying to do this to and why, in a vacuum, I don't think Clarence Thomas would rule in favor of that, frankly. Okay.
No.
But is the reason why they didn't go for the criminalizing of political speech because the precedent has already been set with what you just said a minute ago. They've already put all these people in prison for political speech, and so therefore that argument was not going to go absolutely anywhere. The Supreme Court has let all these people go to prison for the last few years and everything else. So that might be the best case and best argument on the merits, but it's very clear since we're not a nation of laws but political will, the will is already there to just put people in prison for political speech, so that didn't have much of a chance to fly.
And the 8-3 majority on that D.C. circuit, they understand very well the psyche of your Kavanaugh, your Barrett, and certainly Roberts, in that they don't want to arrive at certain conclusions. Let me give you an example. J6, to have this outcome that you would basically have to overturn a lot of these convictions, it's kind of like Obergefell. If you rule based on the rationale of Dobbs, Obergefell falls by a mile. It's even worse.
Right.
I mean, you're reinstating the deeply rooted in history and tradition standard for an unenumerated right. So how do you come along and say, something that didn't exist in any country recognized until 2000 is deeply rooted in history and tradition? But you and I both know they will make sure that is not overturned.
Right.
They're just not going to do it.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with the consistency. And, I think they're showing that particularly after Dobbs, you are not going to get another scenario where the court's going to be perceived as being the determining factor in favor of a Republican president, another Gore v. Bush, and certainly something like that. So he's on his own. That's the reality. I mean, this is why, Make America Gay Again. We're now pandering to Bud Light because he badly needs the money to go towards his legal defense. And look, I mean, this is the stupidity of trying to free the man with the man himself and not having someone else more successfully run for president so we can rectify this. I mean, we're kind of stuck. But what I would note is that the polls are still at it with the psyops. What they are trying to do is to make sure you don't have several months early on showing Trump cannot win. They have to show he indeed can win so that there's no even inkling to swap him out.
I got 2 minutes. Now, this has not been confirmed, but broke last night that Ronna Romney McDaniel has told Trump she's going to resign after the South Carolina primary. So your thoughts on whether, on that, provided it happens, and then what happens next?
So I think Bruce Jenner needs to be the new RNC chair. I mean, let's just make it official. Let's go there, rip off that scab. And you laugh, Steve, but the reality is the RNC, well, let me say the other way around.
These are tears of a clown, brother, tears of a clown. Go ahead. I'm sorry, yes.
You could appoint Ron DeSantis as the RNC chair. It won't matter. The problem with the Republican Party is not McDaniel. The problem is the Republican Party. I mean, I've been, I've been all over the last couple of weeks, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, all these states. I just did a piece on Chloe's Law in Wyoming. The Republican governor, speaker, and Judiciary Committee chair, they are literally to the left of Nikki Haley. They love transgenderism. So remember that burly guy in the University of Wyoming, that like 6'3" guy that barreled his way into sorority?
Mm-hmm.
It was national news, and he's standing next to the girls and whatever. That guy was invited down by this guy Larson, who's a committee chair there in the 57-5 Republican-controlled House. And he praised his civic activism. He's literally there. I thought it was a joke. And then he's the guy who has the new Chloe's Law that makes sure to legalize the chemical castration. And then even for the physical one, it has a bunch of exceptions and no enforcement mechanism. This is what you have after 40 years of a Bruce Jenner movement, a listless vessel industry that believes in nothing, believes in grift. Pre-2016, post-2016, they just put it into one man, and then he could endorse the same ideas and personnel, and that's all good. This is what you get. So, I mean, you could swap the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. It doesn't stop that sinking ship. The Republican Party needs to go.
Brother, sounds like you need a Bud Light. All right. Thank you, Daniel.
Steve, I was thinking of buying one just for you, but, it's MAGA. You can't deny it. Just think about what MAGA stands for.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. This Bud's for you. Gentlemen, your thoughts as we close this out here in the last 45 seconds.
Yeah, just a reminder. Daniel alluded to it indirectly, but everybody who said they resented Ron DeSantis because he needed to wait his turn in light of everything that's been laid out for you on the show. Wow, that was dumb.
You remember?
Yes, it was.
I'm not going to go there.
I don't even know what it is, but I think I should say thank you. Romans 8:28.